Yama. This is welcome in Gamilaroi, the land I grew up in northern New South Wales. My name is Ellen Forsyth and I work at the State Library of New South Wales. I acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which each of the libraries we are in stand. We pay respects to Aboriginal elders past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to other First Nations people. We celebrate the diversity of Aboriginal cultures and languages across Australia. As well, we acknowledge the contribution that people of many nations have made to this country. Today is a collaboration between all states and territories in Australia, and I would like to acknowledge the hard work of people in all states and territories that led to this session taking place. We have speakers from several states and one territory. Please take a moment, if you haven't already, let us know your name and location, to say hello with your name, location and state if not. Now, if you're sharing on social media about this session, please use widerlocalstudies as one hashtag. And again, could people please check that their sound and video are muted? The speakers will each have 5 minutes each. I will be muting my video during that time, but I will need to leave my sound up because they will have one tap at 4 minutes, 2 taps at 5 minutes, and then if they're still going at 5:15, it becomes constant because there's a lot to get through and it'll be interesting to see how people manage the constraints of 5 minutes. The speakers will follow each other and will introduce themselves, so I won't be popping up between them. Questions will be taken at the end for all of the speakers, not between the sessions, and please use chat to ask your questions, and if possible, say who your question is for. At the end, we will have a short discussion about what happens next for wider local studies, and there will be an evaluation sent later this afternoon for feedback on this session and for ideas about the future. Please fill it in as soon as possible, and can also everyone who is watching fill it in. So if you're 2 or 3 of you around a screen, it would be great if you could each provide information. Firstly though, I will be handing over to Alice Woods to talk about special collections at Alice Springs Public Library in the Northern Territory.
Hi everyone, hi. I'll just get my presentation up. So, special collections at the Alice Springs Public Library. Can everyone hear me good? Anyway, the Alice Springs Public Library is a busy public library in the centre of Australia, serving the community of Alice Springs and the surrounding areas, quite diverse, a lot of Aboriginal communities, cattle stations, etc. The library has a membership of almost 12,000, which is impressive for a town of about 25, and receives an average of just under 500 people a day through the doors. The library prides itself on being a real hub for the community, and it goes to great pains to offer services and programs targeted to our community specifically. And within the library, there are 2 main collections, special collections, which I coordinate. So the first is the Alice Springs collection, which is here. It's a collection of books, magazines, photographs, pamphlets, cuttings, etc., which relate to the historic, scientific and cultural heritage of Australia. It was started in 1980 and has become a diverse and valuable collection and is held in a large. The collection also includes materials relating to Central Australian languages, including Alawa, Madra, Aranda, Nananjara, Batam, Pintubi, Pitjantjatjara, Warlpiri and Yankunytjatjara. In addition to physical resources, the Alice Springs collection also holds a significant photograph collection called the Central Australian, which is fully digitised, although currently only available. But we are hoping to get this collection online. This collection is made up of 32 small ones and approximately 5,000 individual images from a range of people and periods throughout Alice Springs history. This year we are actually going to get this collection assessed for cultural sensitivity. We received a grant from the North Government because we acknowledge that there are many images in here that are culturally sensitive in various ways. We're hoping to introduce what we're calling a traffic light system. So green is going to be for access. Orange is going to be that requires a specific warning to be acknowledged, and red where access has to be requested and granted. We've organised someone to do that. So the Alice Springs collection is also changing as a physical space. When I first started, the area had little foot traffic and was almost exclusively used by researchers and people in the know. And most library patrons did not understand what the collection was, and that has changed significantly over the last 3 years. We did big renovations on the space. And one of the big things that made a difference was we introduced portable DVD players, which you can see on the left there, for patrons to watch movies on throughout the day. And the local movies are some of the most popular, but people are welcome to watch whatever they would like. And just the impact of that small change has been amazing, as the space is now just used so much more often, with more and more people discovering that they can use it as a space, browse the books, ask questions, study, and generally hang out and actually be more part of the library. And a lot of people used to think it was a workroom, which thankfully isn't the case anymore. So the second special collection is the Culture Item collection. So it's a much smaller collection, and the aim is to facilitate Indigenous people's use of the library and its collections, and to provide insight into local culture for non-Indigenous patrons and visitors. And it's my belief that it's been very successful, as when the collection was started in 2002, Aboriginal usage of the library was 30%, and now it is 60%. It is a relatively small collection, all of which is front-facing and designed for browsing. It is divided into 6 subject areas that are colour-coded, and another local languages section with 16 different local languages represented. There are also 4 computers in the Culture Item collection which provide access to external local content, like the Central Land Council's digital archive, which used to be called Culture Item. Not a Culture Item, Iricha, and ICTV's in Language Portal, which is a new one, and we're constantly updating those links, as well as internally created content like digitised Urari, incredibly popular. Games are also linked on these computers. Indirectly associated with this collection is another kind of cinema area using silent disco headphones, where people can watch movies together, which is really popular. But it's actually a big part of the reason why we introduced the portable DVD players in this collection, because some movies were just being played over and over and over again, and people got really frustrated. We also recently added the caterpillar that you can see on the right, as we noticed the area was really popular with young children. The library is always wanting to improve its services, and we're constantly trying to evaluate the special collections. As although they're very successful, we just need to make sure we're best serving the community, making necessary changes. So this is particularly relevant as we're in a 40-year-old building. We're absolutely bursting at the seams with all the doors, and we're hoping to get a new library. So we need to what we want to create. Just wanted to quickly mention some other projects we have going. So on the left is a Yestamorph image, which is a Central Australian so an old photo which is
just get the yeah.
It looks like, if you look at the comments on the side, you take that down. Yeah,
maybe if we go on to Ian and then we hear the last bit from Alice. Can someone please work out who is the source of the music, please? because if I mute everyone, I will mute the next speaker, that's all. And I don't want to do that. So if we go over to Ian Morrison from Libraries Tasmania, and then we come back to Alice when she's back online.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Alan. Which I can hear very loudly in here. Okay, the music appears to have stopped now. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ian Morrison, the Heritage Librarian at Libraries Tasmania. And with me in the room this afternoon is Elizabeth Roberts, the Senior Librarian in Collection Development. Libraries Tasmania comprises 47 libraries, including the State Library of Tasmania and Archives Tasmania. Regionalism is a powerful factor in Tasmania. There are 29 municipalities on an island with a total population of around 520,000. Traditionally, there is a broad division into south, north and northwest, with a powerful sense of regional distinctiveness. The state's public libraries, however, are a single statewide system. Municipally run libraries were gradually absorbed into the State Library during the second half of the 20th century. Libraries Tasmania now has 47 sites across the state, ranging in size from the headquarters building in Hobart, with 12 floors of collection storage and 3 floors of public access, including lending library, exhibition spaces, general reference and a secure reading room for rare and original material, including state and national archives, down to small remote branches that open only a few hours a week. Our larger regional libraries each have catchment areas. So, for example, Launceston, I hope you can all see the map that's up on the screen. Launceston Library has oversight branches around the Tamar Valley. Burnie, up in the northwest, has oversight of the west coast. Selection and acquisition is centralised in Hobart. In terms of local studies material, we aim to ensure that there is an even spread across the state so that all sites have the standard suite of resources about Tasmania as a whole and an in-depth collection of resources about their local area. Larger libraries have greater depth as well as a wider area. The general rule is that rare and original materials are held in Hobart and accessed in the secure history room. The collections in Launceston Library, which is the largest after Hobart, do include rare books and some original materials, mostly photographs relating to northern Tasmania. Other branches don't have the facilities to manage supervised access to special collections, although the larger the branch, the more likely it is to have substantial holdings of older, out-of-print material about its local area. Because we are a statewide system and the island is so heavily regionalised, we are highly conscious of issues around equity of access. To someone in Queensland or Western Australia, Tasmanian distances appear visibly small, but many of our roads are narrow, poor quality, hilly, winding. Travel times can surprise visitors from the mainland who are used to cruising along straight highways at 100 kilometres an hour. The drive from Burnie to Hobart, for example, will take you most of the day. It isn't unusual for parts of the west coast to be cut off during winter. Flights from the Bass Strait Islands are few and expensive. With all this in mind, the Archives and Heritage Collections have an active digitisation program. We fill orders from the public, obviously, but we also have a proactive program. We manage this by capturing staff suggestions in a spreadsheet, which includes a checklist that needs to be completed before the item can be formally added to the digitisation plan. The checklist includes an assessment of research value, physical condition, copyright clearance, and whether it is an at-risk format, for example, glass plate negatives or brittle paper. One of the projects we currently have underway are the wading logs in the W.O. Crowther Library. So in many ways, for Tasmania, the global is local. We're also active in collaborating outside our organisation. For example, working with Ancestry to provide access to archival records for family historians. We're very close to having all of our pre-1950s newspapers accessible through Trove. There's now only a handful of titles that you need to come to Hobart to view. When proposing titles for Trove, we prioritised local and regional titles like the Huon News for the Far South, the Northeastern Advertiser, and the King Island use. Another key consideration is what our clients expect to see when they walk into their local library. So, for example, we aim to ensure visibility of works by local authors as well as material about the area. And look, I haven't been watching the clock, but I reckon that must be pretty close by now. And I believe, yes, I heard a little ting there. And I believe I'm now handing on to Jane Harding at Noosa. Is that correct?
Briefly back to Alice because she got bounced out, and then on to Jane.
No, I think I was pretty much finished.
Okay, that's fine. Then we can go on to Jane then.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, just getting my presentation up. Okay, there we go. So good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for this great opportunity to meet everyone and learn a bit more about what's happening out into the world. I've been involved in our Queensland group for about 12 years and find it so rewarding. So my role at Noosa is Heritage Coordinator, which is a bit of a broader role than just a heritage librarian. I do manage a heritage library that has all the usual things in it, local studies, local author, and family history. But I thought I'd talk about something today that makes Noosa a little bit unique. So Noosa's corporate vision is Noosa different by nature. It's a little bit of a play on words about our natural environment, but also about our planning scheme. But the way that we go about heritage is also a bit unique in that we have a heritage levy. So this is a small charge that is levied annually on council rate. It's like a tourism levy or an environment levy or a transport levy, but it's just for heritage. And it is quite unique. At the time that we adopted it in 2005, we were the only council in Australia and possibly the world to have one. In 2010, our neighbours in the Sunshine Coast adopted one, but I think we're still the two only councils in Australia. Did a bit of research this morning and couldn't find evidence of another one anywhere. So like I said, the Heritage Levy is a small charge that's levied annually on council rate. Started at $5 per rateable property, now up to $10 per year in Noosa, and I think it's gone to $12.50 in our neighbouring shire on Sunshine Coast. So that equates to about $300,000 annually in revenue. And this money goes into its own bucket and it's preserved for heritage activities. So it can't be drawn on for other council projects, and it rolls over from year to year, which everyone who's involved in budgeting knows is pretty special. And part of my role is to administer this levy and coordinate the funds. Coordinate the projects that it funds. But before you get really envious that I just have all this money to do what I like with, it's still subject to the usual strict budget processes. So its expenditure management is governed by a policy and some guidelines. And those are on our council website if anyone's interested in having a look. And you can see here on my screen how it's allocated. So it's divided up in percentages. So 50% is set aside each year for heritage assets, either preservation or acquisition. 30% goes to heritage projects, and then 20% to the third and fourth category of heritage coordination, advice, and heritage sustainability.
Excuse me, Jane, I'm really sorry for interrupting.
Sure.
Your presentation isn't sharing. So,
sorry.
Yes, so sorry, yes.
Thanks, Ellen. And sorry
my apologies for interrupting.
I'm getting terrible feedback in my headset. So let me see if this works. Sorry, I'm just feeling to see if I can get that for you. Yeah. Can you all see that now?
Yes. Thank you.
Great. Sorry, everyone. Okay, so now you can see the percentages, the 50%, the 30%, and the 20%. What I should find out is that it doesn't fund the Heritage Library. So even though I manage the Heritage Library, it's funded from the library budget. So the beauty of the levy is it means that every year, council delivers some significant heritage projects. I have to develop briefs for those every financial year, and they go up for approval through the budget process. But they don't have to compete with other council projects. So heritage isn't, I don't have to advocate for why heritage is as important as new roads or bridges. Only my projects are competing against each other because they're being funded from this special pot of money. The other lots of advantages, the levy also makes it much easier to access grant funding, where that grant funding is reliant upon a cash contribution from the organisation. And it also makes us less reliant on the availability of grant funding to undertake projects, because as we all know, there's not a lot of funding out there for heritage projects. It also gives us the ability to respond to short notice opportunities. So if we suddenly become aware of an anniversary or asked to partner in something, we can jump on that without that, oh, we don't have budget for this complaint. It also allows us to undertake significant restoration or refurbishment works to heritage buildings that are council owned, and we've utilised the funds several times for that. So I haven't paid attention to the time either, but there's really not enough time today to get into much more detail on this. But I really hope that by telling you about this and sharing it, it might plant the seeds of this idea in your own councils and communities. Because if more councils had a similar levy, the more heritage work we could all be doing, which is of collective benefit for the whole country. That's what we're all passionate about. And there's a lot of librarians here in this group, and there's nothing that we're better at than advocating for our needs. So I urge you, if you have an opportunity, drop this idea into the minds of your higher up decision makers and see what you can do. I'm always really happy to talk to anybody about the levy, about the work we do in NISA, or any random questions. But my contact details are there on the screen. So just give me a ring or an email. Thanks, everyone.
Hi everyone, this is Danny Reid. I'm the Local History Coordinator here at the Mount Gambier Library. So give me a couple of seconds and I'll get my presentation underway for you. Okay, hopefully everyone can see my screen. This is all a little bit interesting about how this actually works, but thank you very much for all of your time today. So I'm Danny, I'm from the City of Mount Gambier Library, and we're talking about immersive storytelling today. Immersive storytelling is a project that we're just about to undertake, and it's combining the use of virtual reality technology, oral history recordings and photographs from our Les Hill Historical Collection to create customised local content of way of promoting mental, social and emotional health for those in aged care. Now, the City of Mount Gambier Public Library has been successful in an application for a one-off grant through the Office for Ageing Well, and that's where this project has come from, that we've got a little bit of money to play with, and we're really excited to do so. Now, where are we? Well, Mount Gambier is 4.5 hours away from Adelaide, and we are a vibrant regional city with a residential population of approximately just over 26,000, and we service about 60,000 within our wider regional area. Our population is a 50 plus demographic, has shown significant growth, being the highest over the last results. And the Mount Gambier Library, as many of our libraries are, has been identified as a key contributor to the wellbeing of the ageing population, and by providing programs that encourage social connectedness and inclusion, as well as lifelong learning opportunities for people of all ages. So how has this project come about? Well, for the last 10 years, the library has run the Bookwell program in partnership with local aged care facilities, which promotes social inclusion and memory use using books, photographs and historic items. Now, the contributions to this incredibly successful program are a really great window into our social history. But to this point, the stories and anecdotes of our participants have never actually been recorded. Now, an emerging trend across the world at the same time is the use of VR technology as a therapy, with the express aim of improving the quality of life of those in care. And our immersive storytelling project takes what we are already achieving and goes a step further to create local content from memories, images and stories of residents, and overlay them with current day footage. And it's this customisation and local content is a significant point of difference between what is currently on offer for VR experiences and our immersive storytelling project, which will engage through their personal experience. So, what do we already have? Well, the Mount Gambier Library is home to the Les Hill collection, which is an archive of about 16,000 local photographs, 45,000 newspaper records and 4,000 books, maps and letters. And all these items were donated to the library by former Mount Gambier historian Les Hill. Before his death in 1999, Les donated 29 filing cabinets of photographs and ephemera to the library. And it's this collection of items which are used as resources for our Bookwell program. Now, each month the Mount Gambier Library presents 8 Bookwell sessions, engaging approximately 90 aged care residents. And now, thanks to this grant, we can purchase a 360-degree camera, some VR headsets and a VR video editing training package. So, how does this all come together? Well, the library staff, namely me, will go out and record 360-degree footage of local significant landmarks, which will then be shown to our Bookwell participants for discussion. Now, if you've been to Mount Gambier, you'll know that the Mount Gambier area is stunning, but because of the most of our popular attractions are either at the bottom of a sinkhole or the top of a volcanic crater, they are inaccessible to those with mobility issues due to age or disability. So the footage will let participants visit places they may not have visited in many years and allow those who have never been able to visit these places a chance to do so. We will record the discussions that take place, and we're really hoping to stimulate discussion to spark memories about how things have changed or how they've stayed the same. From there, we will consult our historic photographic collection and pull out any images that are relevant to the presented stories. Now, these audio and still images will then be combined with the current day footage, and we'll then create a series of 2 to 3 minute VR experiences. Now, we have already tested AR, so augmented reality, with our senior groups that have come in, and the response to that was absolutely incredible. And not only for promoting their memories and getting oral history happening, but also just the way that they engaged with this new technology. It was just absolutely fabulous and really encouraging to know that we could be onto something really exciting by taking that next step further and making it a virtual reality. So, in short, this project will capture the community stories and oral histories before they disappear. Participants will be making a contribution to their community by sharing the memories around particular Mount Gambier sites, and it will enable those who don't have access for a variety of reasons to revisit these sites and see how they've changed while sharing stories with the broader community. The longer term impact of this project will enable future generations to understand what it used to be like growing up in Mount Gambier and how these sites have changed and evolved. It will encourage more of Mount Gambier's ageing population to share their stories and prove that they do make up the fabric of the community. It will be a convenient way to hear their feedback about the changes in the community, in their opinion, and how it impacts on them, and will also encourage the use of new technologies that some participants may fear and providing confidence to them to explore other new technologies. We are about to hit go with the first stage of this project, and we are really, really excited by it. The community feedback already from some of the advertising that we've already done has been absolutely overwhelming, and we are looking at about October that we will start having our first lots of content being delivered. So please keep in touch with the Mount Gambier Library. You'll probably see it on Facebook. Always feel free to get in contact with us and follow us on our journey. And if you want any hints or tips about implementing augmented or virtual reality from a history point of view in your library and using your collections, please get in contact with us because we're more than happy to share with you what we know.
Hang on, wrong one. There we go. Now you should be able to hear me. I'm Ellen. I'm from the Victorian History Library, and I'll just make this PowerPoint full screen. 1 second. All right. So, yeah, I'm Ellen. I'm from the Param Mechanics
Hi,
Institute,
Ellen.
Victorian History.
Oh, sorry for interrupting. This is Ellen.
Okay.
You haven't shared your screen with us.
Oh. It's sharing.
Okay, maybe unshare it and then reshare it.
Yeah, okay, no problem.
Thanks very much.
That's all right. Can you see it now?
No.
Oh, great. It was working before. Sorry, everyone. I did test this at the start and everyone could see it, so I'm not sure what it's doing. What about now?
No.
Damn.
Are you sharing PowerPoint specifically or completely
Yes, no,
sharing your screen?
I'm sharing PowerPoint specifically.
Okay, just try closing PowerPoint and opening it again, please.
Yeah, sure. Hang on. Sorry about the delay.
Yes, it worked beautifully earlier.
Yeah. All right, I've closed it and just give me a moment. Okay, it's open again and I'll just try sharing it again. All right, can you see that?
No.
Damn. I can do it without it, but you won't get the pictures. And
if you're happy presenting without it, and maybe you could make the slides available later on.
Yeah, no, I can do that. It won't make quite as much sense.
Okay. My only other solution is for you to completely log out and come back in. And then maybe we move Simone Taylor up to present now and you present after her.
I'll try that. Okay,
is that okay, Simone?
Okay, great. I'll just log out. I'll be back in a sec.
Can everyone see that? Okay, so I am Simone Taylor. I'm the Local Studies Officer from Macquarie Regional Library in Dubbo. And Dubbo is located in the central western area of New South Wales. Now, one of the opportunities I have in my role is to present a talk based on research I've undertaken throughout the year. My research topics are based on two key themes: highlighting the local studies collection and investigating Dubbo's hidden histories, the people, places, and stories that have been ignored in the historic record. Not clicking. While my past talks have always been relatively popular, the topic I chose for 2018 sparked a completely unanticipated community reaction. Tin Town was a shanty town of self-built huts on unoccupied public land. Located in East Dubbo, Tin Town was established in the 1920s and existed into the 1950s. Today, as you can see, the site's a modern subdivision and there's little evidence of its origins.
Excuse me, Simone.
Yep.
Really sorry, the slides aren't sharing.
Oh, did they share before? Not at all?
Not at all.
Sorry.
Is it showing that they're sharing?
Well, yeah, I clicked into it and it came up with the slides I just assumed. Sorry.
Do you have a little green and red mark across the top of the screen that says you're sharing the screen?
No, my screen doesn't look like that at all. It went...
Okay. Before you have open the PowerPoint, but don't go full screen on the PowerPoint.
No, it's not full screen.
And then
choose the screen share.
Choose PowerPoint.
Yep.
Maybe we've broken blue jeans today. Who knows?
I click choose the screen here, and it says click here. Yeah, it's not.
Okay, we've potentially broken blue jeans.
Press escape to exit screen share session. I'm not sure. It seems to be saying that I'm doing it.
Okay, if it's really doing it, not pretending to do it, there'll be on the top of the screen, there'll be some writing in green and some writing in red.
No, sorry, I can't see that. It says choose the screen share and I click on it. And then it says click here to start screen sharing. And I can do the presentation without the slides.
I think that's probably an idea. I'm starting to feel we're breaking blue jeans this afternoon.
Yeah, mine was just pretty pictures. It doesn't really add much to the talk, so I'll just do it without it if that's okay.
Great.
So where was I up to? Yeah, so as a research project, I thought this would be quite an interesting one. The difficulties of it. I mean, how do you research something that's part of living memory, but kind of obscured in the historical record? It's not labelled on maps, it's not mentioned in council records, and the reports in the newspaper usually talk about it in the context of a social problem. So as always, the first place I looked at for information was the local studies collection. Unsurprisingly, we didn't have much related to Tin Town. However, I was able to find some pretty compelling evidence using our maps, newspaper reports, and the collections of the New South Wales Land Registry Services. The research provided a pretty interesting picture of Dubbo and allowed me to investigate the societal values around poverty in the context of the Great Depression and its repercussions. One of the interesting things I found was the frequency and negativity of reports about Tin Town increased in the post-Depression period. So while the newspapers of the time were condemning the conditions at Tin Town, I was actually fortunate to get a completely different perspective on life there. During the project, I undertook an oral history interview with a 92-year-old lady called Marie Fardell. Now, Marie lived in Tin Town with her husband's family in the late 1940s. And although her home lacked electricity or water, she recalled living in a really warm and comfortable home. So this interview really helped inform the presentation, and it really provided some unique insights into life in Tin Town that I wouldn't have got from the subjective written records that I was using. So further advertising for the talk drew the attention of the local ABC News, and they undertook a story about Tin Town related to my research. The story was posted on the ABC's national website, much to my surprise, and it was viewed 53,000 times with an average viewing time of 3 minutes. Now, this is an excellent result for a regional media story. The article increased local interest in the talk, and when I presented it, it was filled to capacity. So the project really exceeded my expectations. It's led to better awareness among local media of the potential for stories from our collections. And following the presentation, I still receive community interest up until this day and have been asked to present a follow-up talk. From a collections and research perspective, local interest resulted in a new donation of digital images showing Dubbo's Tin Town, as well as the opportunity to meet with members of the community who have personal memories of Tin Town, which I hope to be able to capture in a group of oral history interview. I've continued to research Dubbo's history in the 1930s and discovered uncatalogued plans in our collection that I also will hope will provide new insights. There are many more opportunities to develop this intriguing project, and the presentation I gave last year was only the start. It's hard sometimes to find the time with my other duties to undertake research projects, but I think it's an integral part of my role. It's a significant method of providing community outreach and an opportunity to highlight different aspects of the local studies collection and to show how our resources can contribute to a research project. It's a means of exploring Dubbo's history and contributing back to our resources as my project work becomes part of the collection. Personally, it's a wonderful way to flex my research skills and to direct an interesting project. Hopefully, it will inspire others to visit our library and use the collection for their own research purposes. Thank you.
Hi, I don't know if anyone can hear me. Oh, the presentation's just come up. Hi, my name is David. I'm the Community Events and History Coordinator at the City of Tea Tree Gully Library. I'm going to give you a potted history of the fine city of Tea Tree Gully for those of you who are unfamiliar with it. We're essentially a suburban local government area about 15 kilometres north of Adelaide. And while that doesn't sound like a great distance from town, we remained a predominantly rural set of villages well into the 1960s. If we go back further, Adelaide is part of an area that was traditionally owned by the Kaurna people. The Kaurna and their ancestors have been here for at least 50,000 years. 50,000 years is one of those things that's a really easy thing to say. It's almost impossible to properly comprehend. And the way I explain it to our school children when they come through is that if we hop in a helicopter just at the oval out the front of where I work here, and fly 1 kilometre for every year that non-Kaurna people have been in Adelaide, we'll land in the town of Crystal Brook. Crystal Brook, I understand, is a lovely town. It's also coincidentally the northernmost point of Kaurna land. If we were to do it for every year the Kaurna and their ancestors have been here, we'd fly over Crystal Brook, circumnavigate the globe, fly over Crystal Brook again, and we'd land roughly in Cyprus. It's an enormous distance and it's an enormous period of time. The vast majority of the area that I work in human history is Kaurna. Moving on, Adelaide is founded in 1836, and by 1838 they've started mapping and selling land in Tea Tree Gully. The area remains rural, and a census in 1855 counted 1,440 non-Aboriginal people living here. This population barely budges for 100 years. By 1955 it's only grown to 2,500. But it blows out in the 20 years after that, and by 75, 57,000 people reside in Tea Tree Gully. So not only does our population grow, but it becomes vastly more diverse. And we're currently home to about 100,000 people from all over the world. About 9 years ago, quite early in my public library career, I was invited to give a talk on the local history of Tea Tree Gully to a class of 10-year-olds at the local school. The talk I gave was on one of those development talks, and it was based on materials that I had at hand. I was quite new to the job. Quietly sidestepping the problem that I found myself in. About 3 minutes into the talk, I realised I was giving the exact wrong talk, the exact wrong group of people. I was looking at a classroom that was at least 50% female, probably about 30% non-Anglo-Celtic, and I was giving a talk that was almost exclusively about Anglo-Celtic men. At very best, my talk on the history of the area had questionable relevance to the children I was speaking to. At worst, I was tacitly telling the majority of the kids in that classroom that their history wasn't relevant to the history of Tea Tree Gully, and looking at it while I was doing it broke my heart. So I took an appraisal and looked into our history program and I looked at all the services that we offer here. And the period that we seem to be covering is a period I refer to as the sepia times, roughly from the start of European occupation through to about the start of World War II, which is a big period. But it neither covers the exceptional long period of Ghana history, nor does it dig particularly deeply demographically. And even our family history service was, and to a large extent remains, biased towards people who have Anglophonic backgrounds. Now, I love history, I love the great characters, and I love the incredible stories, and I love how it bends and changes according to our interpretations. I love allegories and how everyone has a history. And I particularly love for the potential of history at a local level to enable the creation of a sense of place and belonging for diverse communities. It has the ability to bring communities together while at the same time hosting a diverse range of sometimes parallel and sometimes contradictory narratives. History at a local level can do this because it can avoid them and us dichotomy that is so often present in histories at national levels, where the dominant narrative is much harder to challenge and it's hard to get smaller narratives into. Unfortunately, we weren't really looking at any of those things. So we've changed. We're now taking what I refer to as a community history approach, which at least tries to be more inclusive. It tries to be more open to diverse narratives and more reflective of our community as it is now, rather than the community that existed 150 years ago. Now, this does include looking at the life, the work, the trials and successes of early Europeans in the area, but it considers these successes in the context of the exceptionally long Ghana history, their lives, their works and their successes, and the role that settlers had in their displacement. It also looks at the backgrounds of people who make up our community now, where they came from, why they came here, why they've stayed, and what their experiences have been. In terms of relevance, we've seen a 650% rise in participation and engagement in history programs and events since we've changed this method. And I believe that public libraries in Australia are well placed to facilitate the arrival of more and diverse voices into our local histories, but we need to be, and I needed to be, more prepared to dig deeper, think outside the box and open to collaboration in the community. And that's me, I race called that. Thanks.
All right, so I'll go through this one, but I'll just do it without the presentation because I don't think it's going to work. I'll just try very quickly, see if it's going to come up. Anyone see that?
Yes.
Oh, it's working? Excellent. All right, we'll see if it stays working. I won't full screen it just to avoid it trying to cut out. I'll turn my video off. All right, so can you still see it? All right, so I'm Ellen. I'm from the PMI Victorian History Library. For those of you who haven't heard of it, we were founded in 1854. We actually turned 165 yesterday, which we're quite excited about. It's a specialist history library. We collect all aspects of Victorian history and some interstate material as well, and it's the premier loanable collection of Victorian history anywhere. We are a membership library, but as we are also a public library, I'm part of the Public Libraries Victoria Local Studies Group, which they very kindly let me attend, and we're looking at working on being a member of Public Libraries Victoria. So I'm going to be talking about our outreach program. And towards the end of last year, we were looking at collection usage, and we took our book sale on the road to Clunes Booktown earlier in the year. So the idea of an outreach program was born. Although the PMI is a Victorian history library, we're very much a hard copy library, and we're very much based in Melbourne. So it can be really difficult for regional people to access the collection. That isn't to say we don't have regional members. We do, because we have 3-week loan periods and pretty much indefinite loans. We've even got interstate members, but we wanted to make the collection as accessible as it can be, and we're also seeking reach and connections beyond the city so we can be able to source a greater variety of materials for the collection and just to engage with more people. The next question was, where would we try an outreach program and what form would it take? The second part was fairly easy. We're a small staff, there's only 3 of us. There's only 3 of us who are permanent and only 1 of those is full-time. So we had to keep it as simple as possible. So the core of the idea is that one of our librarians packing a box full of books, taking reservations and driving it out to a regional area once a month. The where was a little bit harder. We work with a lot of local history groups. We collect and index the periodicals of pretty much every historical society in Victoria. And and it had to be a distance that was drivable in a day. But we knew from experience that Gippsland had a really active local history community, and so we decided to start there. But for anyone who knows Victoria, Gippsland's a really big region. So it was really important to us that we were doing something that the local community actually wanted. So we got in touch with the local history groups to see if the idea of PMI running outreach in the area was something I'd actually be interested in or not. The response was almost unanimous: enthusiasm and Sale as a location. The library at Sale is new, as you can see, it's very pretty. They have a great local history collection, no local history librarian, and it's reasonably central for its part of Gippsland, and it's drivable in a day just. I did it yesterday, it took quite a long time. It's also a beautiful location, so it just seemed perfect. Now, as I said, it was really important that we wanted to work with the locals and not just drop in and stamp all over their turf. So we got in touch with Wellington Shire Libraries, and Phil, the manager there, was immediately both enthusiastic and really supportive. He got in touch with the local history networks. You can see Wellington History Network on the right there, and the 8,000 strong Gippsland Local History Facebook group on the left. And our first meeting was arranged. These three groups have been amazing throughout the whole process, with publicity, promoting through their own networks, and sending information to local papers, and just generally with enthusiasm. It's been an enlightening experience to work with them, and we're building some really important connections. So in December last year, I packed up a box of books, the laptop, a bunch of collateral, and headed down to Sale. It was a great first meeting. Everyone was interested. That's me on the left with the box of books. And I got to explore Sale, and I picked up a really significant collection for our ephemera collection. You can see the pile of pamphlets and brochures on the right. It was clear that none of the big city institutions were active in the area, so there is a real gap to be filled. And so a trial program has been agreed to. A PMI staff member would come down to Sale Library once a month with a collection of books. Locals could join the library, borrow the books, and then bring them back to the next meeting and return them. It's quite a simple concept, but one that's proved to be beneficial for everyone concerned. Now every month, one of the PMI staff members, it's been me so far, has gone down to Sale, taking not just Gippsland local history books, but other parts of the collection too. Members are joining and they're reserving books. The picture in the slide is of Tom Martin and me. Tom's actually a former PMI member whose health meant he couldn't get into the city anymore, but he rejoined because of the outreach program. He's exactly the sort of person we were hoping to reach. The first meeting was a little small because it was in the middle of the Gippsland fires in February, but the numbers have doubled since, and we're hoping it'll continue to grow. We're taking a wide variety of books, and putting up samples on social media has proved to be really successful in gathering interest. You can see some of the pictures on the slide. It's not just books we're taking either. We're doing a short presentation about the areas of the collection at the start of each meeting, and we stay for 2 hours, 11 till 1, to answer questions, join people up and help with research if anyone wants it. We also bring our banner, trolley, brochures, library cards, laptop, etc. As you can see, there's a pile of stuff in the box on the right. I've been building an equipment list. So far, it's been an adventure. It was always going to be a risk, but at the moment, it's paying off. And the connections we're building are invaluable. So that's our outreach program. And the future? Well, it was always going to be a trial program. We're going to run it for a year, and if we can gain momentum, we're looking at getting grant funding to run it all over Victoria. So watch this space. With any luck, the PMI collection might be on the road all over the state in the future. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name's Sue Miller and I'm from Hornsby Library in Sydney. Today I'd like to share with you how Hornsby Library is using social media to highlight the gems in our local studies collection. At the end of 2017, we launched Hornsby Shire Recollects, the interactive database for our local history collection. It's been up and running for about 18 months now, and we're continually adding resources and exploring ways to utilise it. Many of you have or will be familiar with the Throwback Thursday or Flashback Friday posts on social media. Here at Hornsby Library, we create Throwback Thursday posts for the Hornsby Shire Council Facebook and Instagram pages. We monitor the likes, comments and shares which result from the posts, and we've noticed some create a lot more interest than others. For example, an image of the old council chambers surprisingly did not create much interest. However, here is an example of one of our Throwback Thursday posts from earlier this year that did generate a lot of interest. It is a 1940s photo of Bobbin Head picnic area in the Ku-ring-gai Chase, which is in our local area. From this one post on the Hornsby Shire Council Facebook page, it received 168 likes, 58 comments, and importantly, had 56 shares. We were curious to find out who was sharing our post. One share was to the Old Sydney Album Facebook page, which then received 170 likes, 11 comments, and 24 shares. Another share was to the Ku-ring-gai Police Area Facebook page, which received 85 likes, 9 comments, and a further 12 shares. Google Analytic results revealed the total Facebook performance for this one Throwback Thursday post was 761 reactions, comments, and shares, and it reached 22,889 people. As well, the Hornsby Shire Council Instagram post was also well received with 83 likes. One of the comments was from Sydney Observer, a local magazine who have nearly 900 Instagram followers. As you can see, at the bottom of each post, we put the link to the image on Hornsby Shire Recollects. If people decide to click on the link, it will take them to the image on Recollects, where they can see more information, see its location on Google Maps, and add information or memories themselves. If people are interested in finding out more about Bobbin Head in general, a search on Hornsby Shire Recollects will reveal another 88 photos and documents. Now, it is one thing to see the great results on social media, but we wondered if the results were transferring to Recollects. So do the social media results transfer? On any average day, Hornsby Shire Recollects receive approximately 2,000 page views. On Thursdays, this usually doubles to around 4,000 page views due to Throwback Thursday posts. However, after the Bobbin Head post, Hornsby Shire Recollects received 23,859 page views. As you can imagine, we were thrilled with what we found. So what did all these results indicate? It was time for us to stop and reflect. We are successfully promoting Hornsby Shire Recollects while projecting our local studies collection out into the wider community. We are extending our reach to an audience who may never have otherwise discovered our resources. We have stirred much nostalgia and happy memories about the area for many people. Where to from here? We have to think and be wise about what we post. The Bobbin Head post resonated with people who connected with many different aspects of the photo. There were people commenting about their holidays and picnics, bus experts who commented on the types of buses and motors in the image, plus people who had knowledge and memories about Halverson cruises. This image of a band playing at the old local cabaret theatre will be a future Throwback Thursday post. Hopefully people will comment about their experiences of going to this theatre and the acts they saw. Perhaps relatives of the band members may comment. Who knows, it'll be interesting to see how it's received. We will also see how resources other than photographs go as Throwback Thursday posts. Maps, oral histories and documents might also generate interest. We'll give it a go and see. So that's just a brief look into how we are using social media at Hornsby Library to highlight the gems in our local studies collection. Thank you.
I'm here if I'm up next. Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Sorry. Excellent. If you can hear me and vaguely see me, I'm happy. I'm assuming I'm up next. I've got enough connection to hear some of what you say, but not all.
Yes, Kyla, you're on now.
Brilliant. Thank you. Well, good afternoon, everyone. For those that haven't figured it out yet, I'm Kyla. I'm the Local Studies Librarian for the Gold Coast Council, and I'm currently on South Stradbroke Island, to which I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners on the land in which I'm literally leaning against a palm tree as we speak. I'd like to share some thoughts that have grown from a desire for our behalf to better understand and describe our local studies library during a planned and welcome review of our own collection. A collection of historic and contemporary material based in a city that can be perceived by others as inauthentic, lacking a rich history or a unique cultural identity. A collection that is 5 staff, is open 7 days a week for 63 hours, is integrated with the circulating library and provides ongoing opportunities for cross-skilling of staff members. Now, as everybody attending this meeting knows, local studies practitioners collect, preserve and provide access to resources that are unique to our local communities. And the material held within our libraries plays an essential role in telling stories of the past in order to better plan for the future. They form foundations of regional stories and national histories, and they assist in building community identity and enhancing a sense of space. But while preparing for our review, I've come to realise that we have overlooked the potential of our own library histories, the ability to practice what we support others to do, to use our own stories to celebrate our own identity and purpose, to be able to articulate the story of our libraries to stakeholders, to ensure the longevity and relevance of our collections for the communities we serve, to use our own histories as tools for advocacy, to be able to reflect on the past in order to better plan for the future. Now, the stories in the collections cannot be divorced from the contraction and expansion of the local government areas we're all part of, for the most part, over time, resulting in the movement of heritage items, shifting collection parameters and staff changes. I believe it's important to be aware of this history. In fact, I'm realising it's increasingly important when caring for items that will be in a collection for generations and do not have the short shelf life of material in circulating libraries. When I started researching our own story, I learnt that during a 5-year period, every item in our then multiple local studies collections had been packed, transported and unpacked at least twice, in some cases 4 times. Without considering our own history, I would not have known how these larger decisions of the past impacted collection management and expectations around it for years into the future. I also believe that there are benefits in considering how customers approach a local studies library, and this is something we've been focusing on recently, to reflect on the type of clarifying questions they asked when they first contact us. I've come to 2 conclusions, based entirely on my own observations, anecdotally, no empirical evidence, and with the acknowledgement that others have discussed this in the past. Customers often don't know what to call us, and they don't know what local studies means. Now, how many times has your role or collection been described as a new or magical hybrid of a historian, archivist, researcher, genealogist, or a librarian? Customers value our contribution to their research, but how can they direct others to us if the terms they were using will direct them to someone or somewhere that doesn't even exist? Why do many of us, and I include ourselves in this, use an in-house term to describe us? Academic libraries rarely use academic. Public libraries rarely refer to themselves publicly as public. At the risk of igniting the local history versus local studies debate, is terminology creating a barrier to customers finding us, especially in a busy and increasingly competitive online environment? Personally, I believe that local studies is a term that's meaningful for those working in the profession, but can be a barrier to others, especially for those for whom English is a second language. Does it mean a local area where a customer can study, or a study area only accessible to locals who are invited? While waiting for the results of our review, I'm planning to spend more time reflecting on how customers find and describe us, while continuing to connect our history to our collection so I can be a better advocate and hopefully a slightly better local studies librarian. Thank you, everyone. See ya.
Please join me with me in thanking all the speakers. They have been remarkable for the technical challenges that they've all had to face this afternoon. Yes, that was great to hear from everyone. Now, I've noticed some questions have been coming through the chat for the speakers. Does anyone have any further questions? Although I think Kyla might be in a more challenged position to be able to answer questions, but I'd say please feel free to put any questions online for the speakers. Now, the video, much as it will be an interesting experience, will be available in the next few days. To give it a home, I'll put it on the New South Wales Reference Group YouTube channel with a link to it on the New South Wales Public Library Wiki as well. This is really to give it a home so people can find it. And I'll email a link to it to all the participants of this session. So please feel free to share the links for other people to watch. As I say, there will be an evaluation. It's the New South Wales Public Library Reference and Information Services YouTube channel. I know it's a really racy name, but the link will just be sent to you via your Eventbrite registration. If people already have suggestions for how we can continue this as a loose national discussion, please feel free to put them in chat, but it would also be very helpful if you could put them in the evaluation which will be going out, which will be helpful for seeing if this is useful and if there needs to be, or if it will be helpful to have some continuing discussions. Now, this is firstly a big thank you for the presenters. I think they were all very bold and all very interesting today as well, but great that they persisted through the technology challenges. But I'd also like to thank the organisers because this truly was a national collaboration. I just happened to be the moderator today, but definitely a big thank you to all the other organisers. So at this stage, I'd say watch out for the evaluation that will be sent out, and please provide feedback. That will be very helpful. And thank you for so many people turning up today.